evening. I'd like to call the board meeting for Wednesday, May 14th, 6 o'clock p.m. to order. Can we have a roll call, please, Mrs. Schluter?
Mr. Alexandrovich?
Here.
Mrs. Evans?
Here.
Mrs. Klein?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Nielsen?
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski?
Here.
And I am here.
Thank you. Has the meeting been properly posted, Dr. Pats?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 on the agenda is the Friends of Franklin Public Schools recognition, and we have Dr. Pats and Mrs. Klein who will present the awards.
Good evening, everybody. One of the favorite things for us to do, especially the board, is to be able to see firsthand some of the people that come into our schools and help out in so many different ways throughout the school year. Tonight we're honoring 3 people, and they go through a nomination process of people they work with. And as you read some of the nominations, you really get appreciation for how outstanding people are that don't have to come to our schools, but they choose to, and they're really a great asset for our kids, our programs at all levels. So at this time, I'd like to have Victoria Jensen come up first, and she is nominating Marie Jewell. So Marie, would you also come up? And Victoria, I'll turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about Marie.
Thank you. Marie is Senior Services Volunteer Coordinator at the Hunger Task Force. And for the past 2 years, Franklin High School Life Skills and Transition students have learned how to box food products for the elderly at the Hunger Task Force from Marie. Marie is patient and kind with students and has taught them job skills to prepare them for the world of work. Through Marie, Franklin has also helped the elderly and linked other agencies to the Hunger Task Force, such as Goodwill, FPS, and Whitnall schools. Marie has written job recommendations for students, and as a result, they are obtaining paying jobs. For example, one student was accepted at Project Search, a year-long hospital internship, after Marie's recommendation. I recommend Marie because she aligns herself with the district mission of helping each student achieve his or her highest level of personal excellence through providing them with training, education, and experience at the Hunger Task Force. And we have one student that came to cheer her on that worked at the Hunger Task Force, Nick Kastner. So let's hear it from Nick.
Nick, you want to be in the picture?
Come on up.
Sure, come on up. Can't have all these ladies up here. Got to have a good-looking guy. Jump right in
Nick's
there.
a ladies man too.
Oh.
Right, Nick, you want to stand in the middle of us?
Thank you both. Our next recipient was nominated by Jack Herbert. Jack is a track coach, so he's busy at a track meet tonight and won't be able to get here in time. So Regina Schindel, is Regina here? Oh, there she is. Regina will be presenting the award to Lisa Pelkey. So Regina, would you come up and tell us a little bit about Lisa?
I don't think Lisa's here.
Oh, okay.
I thought she was coming. Maybe she's coming at 6:30. I'm a physics teacher at the high school, and I used to be one of the track coaches. I'm on maternity leave right now. Lisa Pelkey has single-handedly raised about $7,000 for our track team through helping do fundraisers and helping with clothing orders and stuff. Our team is doing phenomenal, and part of that is because of the great parents we have helping to help us get more great kids out. With the money she helped us to raise, we were able to get new warm-ups, and they're really nice, and I think that encourages more kids to come out because they feel like they're part of the program. They all get really nice warm-ups instead of having to buy stuff. They're like Nike jackets, pants, they get really nice shorts. They don't keep them, they turn them back in, but we have 80 girls out, so you can imagine at $80 a pop on jacket and pants to field an entire team and make them look competitive is pretty difficult. So we nominated Lisa Pelkey, and I just want to thank the board on the new track being approved, because in case you haven't noticed on the track results, the girls track team is having the best season they've ever had. They won the meet last night by 61 points. The meet before they won by 50 points. We won the conference relays by 30, and we'll probably win regular conference by over 50 points as well. So the kids are really fired up about it. I know it was a difficult decision, but I think it's a really great thing for the community. So.
Girls, we might have to build 2 tracks pretty soon. Next, we'd like to have Greg Jenks come up and Pam Erdman as well. Great. And they're nominating Winna Zorro. So Winna, would you come up, please?
Thank you. My name is Greg Jenks. I'm the school psychologist at Countrydale, and this is the first year in the years that I've been at Franklin that the school psychologists are the gifted and talented coordinators in the buildings in Franklin. And one of the responsibilities that we've had is to attend the CISA page meetings. Page stands for Parent Advocates of Gifted Education. Pam Erdman is our parent representative of that organization. And we also get to go to the Franklin chapter of the Page Association, and Winna is the president of that association. The task is overwhelming and very challenging enough as it is, but once I attended both these meetings, especially this one, both ladies put the A in advocacy when we talk about the needs of their children, gifted education. And so when Pam and I talked, we thought it was really worthy of, both of you were actually worthy of representation here and honor, but we thought it would be very nice to recognize Winna for all of her volunteer efforts on behalf of the parents of gifted children in Franklin. And because I lack the history of the organization, I asked Pam if she would do most of the work in writing up the nomination. Well, really, she did it all, so rather than having me read it, I will let Pam.
Good evening, everyone. Winna Zorro has been the chairperson of the Franklin Page parent group for 3+ years. Winna has graciously volunteered her time and energy in keeping the page alive amidst the changes that have impacted the district as it relates to meeting the needs of gifted students. She has been a tireless advocate and has supported numerous efforts to engage and educate Franklin parents on resources, curriculum, and educational opportunities for their gifted children. Winna has been instrumental in both organizing meetings and soliciting various speakers to share their knowledge with the parents. We've had presentation topics which included MAPS testing and the gifted students, college-bound high school course selection, college admissions, and off-campus options for accelerated students, and the transition of gifted learner to middle school have been a couple of the opportunities that our parents have had through Winna's efforts. She has shown a genuine concern about how the district is supporting the gifted learner and the future of our Page organization here in Franklin. She's very deserving of the Friends of Franklin Public Schools Award for her unending efforts and time in supporting the gifted learners and their parents in the Franklin School District. Thank you.
And again, thank you to all the recipients tonight for all that you do for our schools on behalf of the board and the district. And for those of you who nominated them, it's nice that they get that recognition through your efforts of knowing that you work with them on a daily basis. We give all the recipients one more round of applause, please.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is community comment. Per board policy, we allow up to 15 minutes of resident comment. Would anyone like to make a comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Alexandrovich. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item 6, under board business, we have a recommendation for a minutes correction of the regular board meeting, from the regular board meeting on February 26, 2014. Is there a motion to make the suggested minutes correction from the regular board meeting on February 26, 2014?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Any discussion?
This wasn't a February meeting, was it? It was was a more recent one than that.
No, this was from the original motion made on
Original
February
motion.
26th.
Okay,
Motion made by Mrs. Larson, second by Mrs. Klein.
okay. Thank you for,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item 6B, approval of the 2014-15 school board calendar. You were given a handout of the calendar. Is there any, first, do I hear a motion to approve the calendar?
make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Schluter, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Mrs. Klein, is there any discussion?
On the calendar, I noticed that normally we have the meetings on the second and the fourth Wednesday of the month, and in January, it's on the first and the third. And I was wondering if that was a mistake that should be corrected.
I got January is the 7th and the 21st.
Right, that's the first Wednesday.
Well, the first Wednesday, I mean.
Yeah, first Wednesday and the third, as opposed to the
Is
second.
that just clerical? We just change, okay. I think you're right.
Okay.
We can change that.
Okay. And then, I noticed in, not that I noticed, but in past years, prior to this year, we had more than one meeting in July. This year, we're having one scheduled meeting in July. And I don't recall the discussion on that. Is there any discussion as to whether we want more than one meeting in July this year regarding, is there any need for the budget, Mr. Milzer, to meet more than once?
No.
No?
We scheduled it with that meeting in mind.
Okay. Dr. Katz, do you know of any reason?
No, I don't.
Do the board members feel we have enough work to do in the summer to meet more than once in July, considering the goals we just were formulating?
Are you referring to July 14 or July 15?
This, July 15,
So in this document?
yes,
Well, we can add a meeting if we need to, correct?
yes.
I'm fine with leaving one.
I'm okay with that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the 2014-15 board calendar as, with the correction noted by Mr. Alexandrovich, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you. And then we have item 6C, appointment of a board delegate for the CISA 1 Board of Control Annual Convention. I would recommend Mrs. Schluter for that appointment. Are there any other recommendations? Mrs. Schluter, are you in approval of your recommendation?
For the May meeting, yes.
Yes. Okay, then all those in favor of the appointment of Mrs. Schluter for the CISA 1 Board of Control Annual Convention as a delegate, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Item 7 are school board announcements. Are there any announcements? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the school board calendar. Item 8, 8A, regular board meeting on Wednesday, May 28th, 2014, at the Education and Community Center at 6 o'clock p.m., and a regular board meeting on Wednesday, June 18th, 2014, here at the Education Community Center at 6 o'clock p.m. Item 9 is the liaison reports.
Can you address the fund balance on that one as far as?
I'm going to, without objection of the board, I'm going to ask that the fund balance policy 3301, if we could please move that to the next
28.
board meeting, which would be May 28th, due to the fact that it might take a longer discussion, and we have some of the board members that are going to be excused at 7 o'clock. Is there any objection to that? Hearing none, then we will discuss, bless you, the other two board policies. I'm going to present the policies because there was not an assignment at the time that, for the liaison at the time that we were reviewing those. And the first is policy 8410, school board policy development. And let's open that up here. Sorry. This policy was last revised in June of 1993, and you'll see the only addition to that policy or revision was adding elimination of policy, of board policies to that, and then also some verbiage in there was changed with that addition of elimination. Do I hear a motion to approve the revision of school board policy 8410, school board policy development, policy draft reviews and adoption?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there any discussion or anything you'd like to add? Dr. Miller?
The revision is really based on the fact that the board doesn't have an official personnel and policy committee, so the language wasn't compatible with the structure and the operations of the board as they are now, so.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Nielsen, a second by Mrs. Witkowski. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. The next policy is policy 8300, school board meetings. The revision to that was adding the liaison descriptions for technology and pupil services. Do we hear a motion to approve policy 8300, school board meetings?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Sleeter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Is there any discussion or comments by Dr. Miller?
None? No.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you. And then item 10, reports and presentations. We have a curriculum review process and one-year implementation areas for physical education, health, and social studies. Dr. Dzurek.
Thank you, Mrs. Evans. I'd like to start by thanking Melissa. She joined me last week to review the report and give the layperson's look at it, because we tend to get into our curriculum ease and share vernacular and terms that don't make sense to everybody who doesn't live with us every day. So thank you to her for assisting with that. And I'm really excited I'm going to present from here because I have several people in the audience with me tonight, and I'm very excited to have them join me for the presentation, and I will introduce them as we go along and get to the appropriate parts. So as Mrs. Evans said, this is the review decisions around social studies and then FIED health and wellness. And we didn't put them together because of any reason other than the culminating work came together at the same time. But I think it's important to have globally healthy, well people. So it's kind of a fitting connection. So it really is my pleasure to bring the report to you this evening. Both groups are extremely progressive, hardworking, dedicated people that always do what's right for kids. So it was very exciting to work with both groups. I want to just start out quickly by reminding you, you read this process in the executive summary. FIA and social studies went through the entire process, as did all the other areas in Franklin Public Schools. So it was very extensive and thorough and outlined in the executive summary. And that summary serves two purposes. It shares with you as a school board all the decisions that were made and the work that went into those decisions. And it is a historical document to have on file to reference in the future should we revise or revamp the work. We're going to start out with social studies this evening, and one of my favorite parts of the work is after we do the phase 1 of best practice and review, we determine a mission that aligns with the school district's mission and vision and slogan. So this is the mission, vision, and slogan that came forward for social studies. And the social studies people in the audience will tell you this came forward very passionately and with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, because we were in the review 2.5 years waiting for the state and national associations and bodies that govern schools to determine what they were going to do with the social studies curriculum. So we started and stopped several times, and then at the urging of the quality department, they said we need to move forward, we can't wait, the work we do is becoming antiquated and the materials we use are definitely antiquated, so we persevered and moved on.
What is meant by multicultural understanding? What cultures?
All cultures.
Okay, that answers as much as saying multicultural understanding.
Well, any, if you think of the globe, any culture around the world, any country has its own culture, so.
So you're talking about cultures within a country, not
Exactly.
necessarily political cultures?
No,
or-
no.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. All right, so K-4 committee, we worked together as a K-12 committee, but then eventually separated into 2 different committees. And this evening, we have one of our representatives, Kim Held, here with us, and she's gonna come up and join me because she's gonna talk in a few minutes. And we added to the committee because once the work becomes more in-depth, we have to bring in more voice around the work. So I just wanted you to see that it's kind of a 2-part committee. And then the 512 committee, we obviously had representation from all the levels and all the different courses or types of courses at the high school. And then in fall of this last year, the entire social studies department joined in on the work because they actually have to do production. And from this group, we have Jason Fish with us, and we have Kathy Egan, Michelle Kancheski, and Susan Berry. And also, we had 2 principals who joined us throughout the entire review process, and I want to thank them as well as the teachers. So we have Chris Reuter and Nick Cohn representing middle and high school. And Chris was my right-hand person who supported the work during this last year while I was out assisting some of the other areas. So I appreciate their work along with all of the teachers. And thank you to them, for some of them, for joining us this evening. It's important for you to hear the teacher voice around the work. Not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to remind you that in Franklin, it's a very thorough process when we design a standards document. We don't take the document handed to us from the state of Wisconsin. We take all relevant documents related to that area, look at them collectively, and then the committee, with all the representation you saw, designs a document by grade level that dictates the work in the district. So it's a very thorough, extensive document. Wisconsin's document is very outdated. They realized that, but they were waiting for direction at the national level, and it was on hold. And because all the work was going into the Common Core or around math and literacy. So we decided to move forward with the other relevant documents and design a comprehensive relevant document for our district. And I will share this presentation with the school board afterwards, and if you click where it says click here, you'll see that giant document. From that document, you just saw Vanna over here handed you a poster, and that's the K-4 poster. We do have a 512 one. Did you do both of them? Oh, here comes Linda. And this document really encapsulates the curriculum work. And if you start from the inside and work out, what is the goal of delivering social studies? It's career and college readiness, along with creating quality citizens. We're required by the state to, if you look in the square, we're required by the state to honor all 4 content areas. And in Franklin, we chose, with the exception of high school, to integrate behavioral sciences into the 4 contents. That's why it's represented in a circle around the edge. And then outside of the required areas, we standards-based grade, because obviously we follow standards when we do our curriculum. And the only difference between the K-4 and the 512 document is 512 condensed it to 3 power standards that they work around, and K4 chose to stay with 4 power standards. And then on the outside, that's a representation of the National Council of Social Studies work. They strongly endorse teaching through themes and not teaching straight content. So it's about skills and processes through the themes, and you acquire the content as appropriate around that area. Because as you know, we live in the world of Google, and we can Google most content once we understand that it's available. Again, when you get this presentation, attached in the link are all the social studies laws. This is an area that does have statutes attached to it more than any other curriculum area. We went through and ensured that we were honoring all the laws within the work we did, so we wanted to point that out to you, and at your leisure, you're welcome to look at all the laws and see how we're meeting those. Now I want to get into the actual nuts and bolts of the work that the teachers do. And this is really the exciting part, because all the work we just talked about is grueling, and it's a lot of really deep thinking, but it's one step away from the kids. So now the work they're doing finally is going to get to the students in Franklin. And so we have to make decisions around what materials are going to support that standards document. And so after our design work is done, we make those decisions. And at K4, we chose to purchase, if you notice it says the Teacher's Resource Kit from Macmillan McGraw-Hill. And the reason for that is the K4 staff is housed in 5 buildings. And it's very important to the kids in the community that regardless of the school they attend, they have the common learning experience. And it's very difficult to bring 15 first grade teachers or 15 third grade teachers together, because we have limited professional development opportunities and limited time due to all the work they do. So this program allowed us, we had aligned it and decided on the units we were teaching, found this as an after fact, and they really had done the work we were about to embark on of creating our own units. So we chose to purchase just the Teacher's Resource Kit. This is the first review that's coming out that has absolutely no student editions purchased. It'll all be primary resources or relevant trade books and pertinent materials. And the reason for that was books are outdated the day they're published when they're nonfiction, and obviously this is an area where you need relevant materials. So we did make the choice so that there was a common experience to purchase pre-designed units that the teachers will deliver to the students in grades K4. And they will be delivering the units through in isolation initially, so they understand what's in the units and how to deliver the new curriculum that was designed, but eventually it's going to move to an integrated approach. And that's why Kim is up here. One of the things they were tasked with was determining what exists in the English, in the reading and writing area or in the workshop that they could find that we could integrate into social studies. So I'm just going to click on a document and let Kim speak to it.
The committee's been working together for, as Wendy said, the core of the committee about 2.5 years, and we've added more people as we've gone, as we're getting closer to the product that's going to be brought to our teachers. And so what we did at our last full day together was we met together in the Robinwood book room, which is the room that K-4 teachers take books for small reading groups from. And we looked at the units that we'll be teaching along with the materials that we already have for small group work. Looked through all grade levels and all the different units to see what would match. And so the document has K-4, and it shows the units, and then the trade book sets in the last column shows books that we currently have that would align with the units that we have. The other work that we're continuing to do is we're also taking a look at the Making Meaning curriculum. That's our reading curriculum. And we're looking at the Being a Writer curriculum and looking for connections between those curriculums and the social studies units to continue to integrate social studies into our reading and language arts. So the kids are actually taking concepts learned in social studies, but they're able to extend the learning by using other materials that we currently have. It also gives us the opportunity to level the learning to the children's ability. So we won't have all kids learning a concept necessarily from the same book. They'll all be learning the same ideas and the same concepts, but in a book that's appropriate to their learning level. Again, we did it as a group so that the books at Robinwood's book room are comparable, generally the same as the books in Pleasant View's, Countrydale. All the other grade schools have the same books. Our reading specialists have put those collections together.
And with the goal eventually in 15-16 to integrate as much of the social studies curriculum directly into the Readers and Writers Workshop. And that's definitely best practice, is to help kids make connections and not teach in siloed areas. So we have to transition towards that because the social studies curriculum is different and the teachers have to become accustomed to that and figure out the connections over the next year. So we're looking very much forward to that. Now I'm gonna have Susan Berry come up and join me. And while she's walking up, I want to thank Susan. She's been a leader in social studies K-12 since I've arrived, and I'm sure before that. And she's stepping down from her role this year because she's going to take on the challenge of assisting in the design of inroads, and she has to determine where to put her time and energy because obviously she teaches full-time and then works with AP courses at a national level. So I want to thank Susan for her past work. We'll definitely miss her, but she'll still be there as the guide on the side assisting us. What Susan and I want to share with you this evening is times have changed. If you, I apologize, I have my back to everybody, the teachers know these books well, but when I was a teacher in the classroom and many teachers over their career in Franklin, when it came time to adopt, we would bring teachers' editions and textbooks to the board and say, here's what we're going to adopt. Well, and they looked like this, and the teachers opened them up and they looked on the side and they followed the resources and the objectives and they taught the lessons. And usually in whole group, and the students acquired the knowledge and then they tested based on whatever ideas or skills or activities they were doing. Well, this is gone, and the teachers design this now. So that's why it's so labor intensive. And we use a teacher's edition really in Franklin is now electronic, and we house it in something called Eclipse, which is our online curriculum mapper. And so what I want Susan to do is share with you what does that mean to house this in Eclipse and actually design your own units. So while she's, I'll get to it.
Well, I do want to say, though, while we did have the textbooks, and we were definitely a textbook-driven district, teachers did always bring in outside articles and things like that. So it was not completely in a, starting at chapter 1 all the way to the end. So there was a little bit of creativity, but not nearly as much creativity that we're now going to have. And Eclipse is a way of letting us sort of organize this. And I think that Wendy is going to the Inroads, the new Inroads course that I'm piloting. One of the reasons that I wanted to step down from the coordinator's job is because it is a very time-consuming job, and so is this. So is putting together an entirely new class, really without having a sort of a base textbook to work with. It gives you all the possibilities in the world, but those possibilities take time to actually work through to find the best sources, and we think we found one today. For the history portion at the very least. So we have a lot of creativity now, and we needed some place to house this, and Eclipse will do this job for us. So just today, Peter Rizika and I, who will be teaching in this course, the history portion, the Innovative Thinkers, we decided on these titles, these course titles. Setting the stage is really learning those new rubrics as we move towards grading for learning. And so we'd like to spend a couple weeks with the kids sort of getting them used to what those new rubrics are going to look like, because they're going to be using those in social studies for the next couple of years, or the rest of their career, I should say, at the high school. And while they might be tweaked here and there, we want to get the kids used to having that type of experience with a rubric and what the expectations are and learning to read a rubric. And then you can see our first unit is one called Innovative Thinkers, where we're really probably will start with a more modern person. Just today we had been talking about is it Mr. Musk who's done quite a few Tesla motors, and maybe starting with an article on him to get the kids really excited. But now all of a sudden we're thinking about, and I'm blanking completely on the name of the Google man, or not the Amazon guy from China. Is it called Alibaba?
Yep.
The new website, or the new, yeah, supposedly there's some great articles on him right now. And what that allows us is the freedom to get them excited in something that's going on now, and let them see something that really could, sort of spur them into being motivated to learn. So we start with the titles to kind of get us thinking, but then absolutely we have to tie it to standards, and we have to think about what skills we want to teach in each unit. And so we also need to think about and maintaining some type of allegiance, fidelity to our national council and their themes, which are the ones that I believe that Linda handed out to you. And you can't teach all of these. Okay, there's 10 of them. It would be awfully chaotic to do 10 units. And so it's best to try to combine them and then really try to name them something that's intriguing to the kids, because the kids love an intriguing question. They love to be creatively challenged, and I think this not only gives us the opportunity to be creative as teachers ourselves and not be tied to a textbook, but also to sort of creatively challenge the students.
And what you're seeing here is a blank document, because they're in design. So when it's finished, they will attach all of the standards that they created earlier in that document, and then they will link in a document that has learning targets. They'll add their standards-based assessments, any common activities, and any common resources they'll bring in there. And then this is the document with all the final curriculum decisions, and I'm not going to go through that obviously, but I just want to point out to you that there is a process called Understanding by Design. That's a nationally respected process that they're using. And the first thing they decide is what is going to transfer beyond high school, and what enduring understandings and essential questions do you want. So that's the work they embark on when we move into developing a new curriculum. Let's see if we can get back to, where's my actual presentation? There it is.
Now, Peter and I did get so far today. We're working on a separate spreadsheet right now, and then we will move things over as we get them made, because we're new to Eclipse and we want to make sure that we have exactly what we need. But we actually did decide which standards we were going to hit in our first unit. It just doesn't happen to be up there at this
Right.
particular
They
moment.
design in Google Docs and attach, so when they revise, it automatically revises in Eclipse. So they make wise decisions about how they do the work. The students their textbook will become a Moodle site, a Moodle or a Google site, and then we look for digital resources, and that's what we're going to share with you next. Is the 7th grade is going to come up, so thanks, Susan.
Yep.
And we have Linda Shear, and we have Linda Shear, Michelle Kancheski, and Kathy Egan, who will join us for just a few seconds, and Chad Kafka always comes along and just checks if you're doing technology okay. Actually, Chad is with us because this was a review where we had our reading specialist or our literacy coaches with us, and we also had our tech people with us because of the integrated approach and the technology base. So the ladies are going to give you a quick visual of what it looks like to put this into action using a digital resource. So I think, did you hand out the unit, Chad? Okay. Yep.
Okay, so as the designer of the unit, it's where we always start with designing our units is with the standards. Everything comes back to what are our standards, what do we want our students to learn, what do we want them to know. With this particular unit that we're going, this lesson that we're going to show you, it was a lesson based on our Civil War unit where we introduced the kids to the differences between the North and the South and focus on industrialization. The report card standard areas that we started looking at to address this lesson were report card standard 1, which is analyzing primary and secondary sources, and report card standard 2, which is argument writing or having the students justify a claim with evidence. So once we took a look at the standards, we thought, well, what is our essential question? What do we want the students to know? So the essential question for this industrialization lesson was, did the benefits of technological advances made during the Industrial Revolution outweigh the costs. So here the kids are going to be using the tech book as a digital resource to support their claim with evidence. And kind of illustrate this.
So I just want to show you that this tech source has just a ton of sources for teachers to use and students to use. Along the side, you'll see that there's a Common Core connection. There are multiple tabs across the top. So I want to very quickly kind of go through. If you'll notice on the top of the sheet you were handed, you were given a passcode to be able to enter this and kind of peruse this and look at it at your leisure. But just to kind of show you, in the Engage tab, it might give a quick video, it might give a primary source quote from somebody, and it just gets the kids kind of thinking about that big essential question. And then you can head to the Explore tab, where there's multiple articles to look at. Again, there's images that they can look at, video clips. What we chose to do on this was to do a modeling activity about how they could start to utilize some of the tools that this has. So one of the things that we found to be wonderful is that there's different reading levels. So we found out that the level A is for current grade level, and level B takes the reading document down a grade level or two. There are some tools that the students can use as they're reading. So each student, you can see there were multiple of articles up on the top here, and students were put into groupings, and they were asked to read their article and then find and highlight any of the costs and any of the benefits. So they can use that by using the highlighter button. And as you can see, they were highlighting in, I think these were benefits in pink, and then the costs in yellow. They can also take notes. So if I were to highlight something here, a little highlight thing and a little take notes, so I might say here that this was a positive or a benefit. And once I click on my document now, it will, my little post-it note kind of shows up on the side. I also have the opportunity for our ELL students or our students who find some of the words difficult to say, they can highlight it and go up to the speak text, and the text will read it to you. So another great feature for students to use. And we really like the flexibility with all of our new literacy strategies that we're coming in, that this is an interactive text for the kids. So that's a really nice feature that we can use frequently. The Explain tab has them, once they've kind of looked through and explored the multiple articles that there are, they can try and any of the activities here, so they have choice to be able to look through and demonstrate and analyze what they've learned, showing us in different modes of what they would like to, trying to incorporate what they learned. On the Elaborate tab, here is where you have multiple primary sources and secondary sources to look at. So again, the students can dig deeper. We can give them a big question or a big topic, and they can go in, and we have different things from video clips to a writing, and they can do different things. And again, if you don't like any of these, you click over here and you have just mountains of things to look at. In the Evaluate tab, again, there's multiple things. There's constructed response, there's assessments, so many different ways to be able to checkpoint your students and see how they're doing. Some cool things that they have is a global news, so they can watch, they're anywhere from 3 to 5 minute video clips of currently what's happening going on in the world, so we can incorporate current day news here. The Classroom Manager allows you to set up your classes and your students. You're going to see something here called a student board. Underneath this Builders tool, they have the board builder. And so what is cool about this is that I might want to take and have 5 different groups and base it on differentiation levels. And I might choose, and I say, you are group A, and you're going to work on group A board builder. And on this board builder, the teachers have the opportunity to plug in any video, any articles that are from the site. You can pull outside sources in there, and every group or every student actually could actually have their own board. to, use so that the teacher can differentiate. The students can also use this. They can create it, and if you have that question, show us how you can justify your evidence by building your own student board. I think that's
Obviously,
Basic, so-
yeah, we could spend all night sharing, but we wanted you to see that while not only do they design lessons, they bring in the technology and figure out how to use very, very complex, comprehensive tools. This is not a lesson designer, it's a resource for students. And it's done by Discovery Education or Discovery Channel, so it's constantly updated and revised. So thanks to the ladies for giving you a little, they've been practicing this year. This curriculum actually goes into place next year, but they've been using the tools and determining, that's how we determined if we were purchasing it or not by their use with it. So thanks to the ladies for joining me. The only person I didn't bring up was Jason Fish, and he plays a very important role. He won't be joining me up here this evening, but his role is 5th and 6th grade is a part of the middle school, but they sit in the elementary, so we have to constantly crosswalk to ensure we spiral and design an appropriate curriculum that's rigorous and allows the students to be prepared when they walk into the 7th and 8th grade building. So Jason crosswalks both ways. He's a 5th and 6th grade teacher, but he often meets with the K-4 group to ensure that continuity in design. So he's played a vital role in curriculum development and design for us, so we very much appreciate his work. So hats off to the social studies group. They didn't all join us this evening because that's hundreds of teachers, but I appreciate the group that came to share with you the complexity of the work that's done in this day and age to deliver a curriculum to students. And the final thing I just wanted to point out is, obviously, with the complexity, it requires retraining and new learning for the teachers. So Franklin does have to devote time and resources to ensure that we do plan training for the teachers when it comes to delivering the new curriculum. So this is just a snapshot into the formal learning they will experience. So we're going to shift right now to Fayed, but before we do that, we're going to have Nick and Dave come up and run a brain break for you.
All right. Well, I would like all of you to stand up. This is not to be too vigorous, so made it inclusive to all. I'm going to stand up here so I can try to see most people. So brain breaks, after sitting for extended periods of time, blood flow is diverted away from the brain, your heart flow is slowed, and we want to, brain breaks can serve different functions. One is to create arousal at the Monday morning, the kids are still kind of sleepy. After a while of working, same thing, losing focus. And they can become more vigorous, where we have them kind of run plays, do some different sort of calisthenics, or just more simple. I saw some fear there, don't worry, it's not going to be that. Or some more simpler one. So what I would need you to do with your left hand, just extend your pointer finger out, and then on your right hand, your thumb straight in the air. Now, when I'm going to say switch, what I need you to do is, on your left hand, you switch what you're going to do. So your left hand, your finger comes in, your thumb goes up, and, I'm sorry, on your left hand, and on your right hand, thumb goes down, index finger goes out. Okay? So now we're going to try slowly, then we'll speed it up. Switch. Okay? Switch. Now look at your fingers when you're doing this. Switch. As some of you are shooting me with guns. Switch. So what's happening right now, switch, is for those that switch are unable to do this, it's because you don't have the pathway created yet. Switch. See, and I messed myself up. Switch.
I don't know what's supposed to
No, switch. And we could just stop there, but that increases blood flow to the brain. Both sides of the brain are being activated, and then students will be more ready to learn and attend to the information at hand.
And brain breaks, believe it or not, aren't only effective at waking us up during board meetings. They can also be used in education as well, and that's a big focus of our health education plan and our physical education approach as well. Right here is an outstanding slide that shows half of what brain breaks do. It really does two things. The first thing is it gets the neurons firing in the brain. Our brain is simply neurons that send electrical impulses, and the more we use them, the more we grow. You can see the brain on the right is more ready to learn. The more we're moving, the more active our brain is. As Nick had mentioned, we're using both hands. If you're using one side of your body, you're using one half of your brain. If you're using the other side, you're using the other half. You're using both. And if you're doing things in opposites or crossing your midline, your brain is interconnecting now. That's why you get a brain like that on the right. We can see that brain is much more ready to learn than the brain that's been sitting in class over and over and over for minutes upon minutes. So,
I'm gonna cut you off because they have action items, and
Okay.
some of them have to leave, so
Sounds
I've
good.
gotta move us along a little bit. Fayed obviously did the same work as all the other areas, and hats off to the Fayed department. When I joined Franklin, they had just finished a review, and that review 5 years later withstood time so well that there really were minimal changes to the curriculum. We did add a mission statement, and it really speaks to their willingness to stay current, and they stay connected at the state and national level. Some of our Fayed teachers are out presenting in other districts, and that allows us to stay progressive and innovative, so thanks to them. We have several of the committee members with us tonight, and that represents the kind of group they are. They are very collaborative and cohesive. They might fight behind closed doors, but when I see them, they're always building consensus and doing a great job. So I want to just quick introduce who's here tonight, and if I miss anyone, Dell, I try to circle everybody. We have Sue Mishler, who's the K-8 coordinator, and maybe just raise your hand so they can see who you are. Ken Weisky. Lewis Brown, who is the high school coordinator. We have Nick Campbell, who you just met. Courtney Lukasavich. Dave Blask, who was up. Corey Bauer. Ken Huber, and Cynthia Byrne. Did I miss anybody? So thank you to all of them for joining in tonight. I'm not going to share this with you at this point, but I do want you to know part of the work was they designed a Google website that will be interactive for parents and students to use as they go through the curriculum. So I want to start out.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new. If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I
would get more hamsters. I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna. I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks. Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
We brought this to you because this is close to our hearts. We don't know why this doesn't make national news every night, that this is the first generation in recorded history that won't live as long as your people live. So the work we do is very important. And it can't be done alone. It takes not just parents, but communities, school districts, state, regions, nations, governments working together to help quell our obesity epidemic, increase reactivity, increase the quality of nutrition that we have in our lives.
So just like all of our other content areas, Fayed and health are dictated by standards. They design a curriculum in a very similar fashion. And we're sharing with you their power standards posters. And the reason for that is Cynthia, along with some of her high school colleagues, chose to have high school students design these posters. So we thought it was really important for you to see it. You'll see that they have recognition on there. So it was engaging the students in the process because these will be displayed in all the classrooms. So we wanted you to see those. And what the FIED department decided to do for you this evening was share with you what the PE standards actually look like out in the classroom. We know it's impossible to get to all the FIED classrooms in the district, so in a few quick minutes, we're going to share a YouTube video that they Nick put together on behalf of the department. So, anything you need to say before I run it? Okay.
The day begins.
In this clip and the next clip, students have to work together to race across the gym. However, they are not allowed to touch the ground.
do they look the same? Rosy dawn marks the end of the night as the day begins.
So their goal was to illustrate to you that they're not just playing games, they're very strategic games, and they're designed in the same way that in the same way that the social studies units are designed. It's all their work and their design around that standards document. And just one other very important point, we spent a lot of time on the health curriculum this year and made a decision that at K-6 we wouldn't be teaching isolated health units for a week here, a week there, because that really isn't best practice and it doesn't get transferred over. If a student listens about information in a book and doesn't apply it to their life. So health will be integrated into the school culture, and we'll be coming back next year to share what that looks like with you. That's in design for 15-16. So the brain breaks is one example. All students will experience those and the teachers will understand why, and they will be related to the standards you see on the posters, and they will be assessed through existing assessments within the district. Middle school and high school, there's a requirement that 0.5 credits are earned between 7th and 12th grade, and you can see where we teach our existing health units that are formal instruction by that level, because we feel kids do need formal instruction to make the best choices possible. And as the board was made aware of, per statute, we brought together a committee representing the community and our staff and determined the best way to deliver human growth and development, and that is formally instructed as well in these areas at these levels. And so that is a snapshot into the PE, health and wellness curriculum and social studies. So it really is an honor and pleasure for me to work with such fabulous people who are willing to do this difficult work. So I really would like to ask you to give them a round of applause.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate all the work you do, and especially that you came here to support your departments. Thank you so much. Okay. Item 10B is the Sabre Stadium project update. Dr. Patz.
Are there people that are going to be leaving for second?
Are there any board members that need to be excused?
Could I make a motion that we table this discussion because it is so important? We do need the full board to make a decision here, I believe. I'm just wondering if we could table this item to the May 28th meeting, if that would work within your time frame, Dr. Patz. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Because I know some board members have to leave.
We have a motion to table this until, pardon?
I have a question. Is this just going to be an update, or is it, what are we being asked to,
It's going to give you an update, and we're going to make a recommendation to the board
so,
for action.
I'll second that so we can have discussion.
Okay, we have a motion to table until May 28th. And we have a second by, motion by Mrs. Larson, second by Mr. Alexandrovich. Any discussion?
Dr. Patz, can you comment on whether tabling this for 2 weeks would have an impact on the project if we don't?
The tabling it itself will not have, we are moving forward with the project based on the approved dollars so far. We are still over budget, and we are proceeding with the project with, there are two things. We're asking the board, we're making a recommendation that the board approve additional funds, or we will be making that recommendation. And if not, then we will be informing the board of what will have to be removed from the project, which we think is going to really take away the integrity of the project, quite honestly.
But if a decision is not made tonight, it's not going to,
No, we've already, we've notified everybody to be moving forward with what we know is in place right now. It's just a matter of whether we can move forward, quite honestly, doing it the right way or doing it in a way that we will have to come back later on and address at another time. So,
The 28th is an appropriate day.
Pardon?
I think the 28th is an appropriate day for discussion.
Okay.
That's what I think. So we know we're moving, we're moving forward, so.
Okay.
can you provide the board with any additional information you have in writing before that?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Larson. Is there any other discussion?
I would just add, when we have that update before the next meeting, if you have anything that you may, not unforeseen, but any stuff that you might see could be coming up as a problem too, so we can. talk
Related to
about-
this
Yeah.
project? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And relating to the project and.
Okay.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Larson, second by Mr. Alexandrovich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Then, are you leaving, Mrs. Klein? No, I'm not, actually. Okay, can you please note that Mrs. Schlueter and Mr. Nielsen are leaving at 7:06. Thank you. Enjoy. Thank you all, staff. Okay, do I hear a motion to enter into closed session to discuss employment and performance evaluation data for named District Franklin Education Association, FEA members and employees pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, sub 1, sub C, and 118.22?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Larson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Alexandrovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Evans?
Aye.
Mrs. Klein?
Aye.
Mrs. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Nielsen is absent, Mrs. Schlueter is absent, and Mrs. Witkowski.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we need a recess?
This will be real quick, just so you know.
Okay,
Okay, is it-
we are back in open session, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the notice of non-renewal as recommended by the administration. Do I hear that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexandrovich. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mrs. Evans?
Aye.
Mrs. Klein?
Aye.
Mrs. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Nielsen is absent, Mrs. Schlueter is absent, Mrs. Witkowski,
Aye.
and Mr. Alexandrovich.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Oh, I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm writing it down. Thank you. Item 12 is the board meeting debriefing. Do we have any comments?
I thought the presentation was very intriguing, particularly the video. And there's just a lot going on in the, more so than what the written material that you provided. And I just, I'd like to hear what the board thinks about some of the changes going on. You know, how, I mean, Fayed's not the way it's not even Fayed anymore, is it? It's something else, and we didn't really leave time for us to kind of really know what you think, I guess. So, and I would like to, there's that website you said that they have. I'd like to know where that website is.
Right. I will send you this the presentation. There's a lot of live links on it, so you can go in and look at any details you'd like and ask questions. And then as before, if I feel the teachers can best answer them, I forward it to them and they'll send the responses, because sometimes they do a better job of responding in detail than I do, because they live their content every day.
As far as the debriefing, can I make some comments on the presentation also?
Unless we'd like to put just a short agenda item on it once the other
fine.
board members are back, so we can just
I'll write an email.
comment on it? Would anyone like that? I mean, I had a couple comments too, but didn't, Would anyone like that?
Sure.
I mean, it's not really debriefing to talk about.
And so our role is really just to listen and, or do we, are
Right,
we
you-
approving curriculum tonight
You
or not?
approve, you approve the courses, and you do that in November, and then this is the work that comes around that. So tonight, there's no action item, it's information to help you understand what.
We did back then.
Right.
Oh.
Are there any other comments? I mean, if we'll put a, is it okay, is there any objection to putting an agenda item? Just,
For comments?
Yeah.
Not another presentation?
not another
Oh, no,
presentation.
no.
Just, and I'll email the other board members to say if they had any comments, that it'll be on the next agenda, just for a quick, just for a quick recap, if anyone had any comments. So don't forget your comments. Okay,
No, I've got lots of things written down.
for what we just, okay.
You just want to do the video.
Okay. Future agenda items. We have on May 28th, the board goals, the administration feedback discussion. Will you have that ready? Okay, great. And then National School Board Association Conference reports from Mrs. Klein, myself, and Mrs. Larson. Can we have those ready? They only have to be that brief form.
Well, I already sent in all my information to Megan. I sent it in when we came back, and
It's in the library then?
yeah, I think she put it, I asked her to put it in the library. I sent her all the links to the
Anybody else?
sessions
that I went to.
I did not yet. So if you just want to choose your one, just to comment on, just your favorite, well, you're ahead of the game.
It wouldn't have anything related to medical, however, though.
No. No
Although
matter.
we might have a lot to say about it.
So just choose your favorite to just comment on from, so,
Brief comment, correct?
yeah.
Yes.
Or your highlights from the conference. And then June 18th, the budget first draft. And then now we'll just have a short comment period on, because it was a great presentation, so on that. Anything else? Okay. And then also on the 28th, then we will have the tabled item for the Sabre Stadium project update. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I would make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Larson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexandrovich. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you.